Okay, so here on question 1, it's asked us to find 4/5 of 30. If this is the first time you've looked at this topic, the way I'd originally explain it is to draw this bar, and we've split that bar into 5 equal pieces. The reason we've split it into 5 is because our denominator is the number 5. So now we know that between those 5 boxes, we are sharing the amount 30. So we need to share 30 equally between these 5 boxes. So therefore, now we know that each box is worth 6. If we wanted to work out what 4/5 of 30 is, we add up 4 of the boxes. That gives us our final answer of 24. That's the more visual way of showing you how to do one of these questions, and a lot of you are probably past that now and actually look at the question and work out the quicker way of doing it, which is 45 divided by 9. So we've shared that 45 between these imaginary 9 boxes, which gives us our answer of 5. We want 2 of those boxes, so then we times our answer by 2. Okay, another question, it's just flip round the order, but it doesn't matter because multiplication is commutative, so it doesn't matter if you do 1 times 2 or 2 times 1, you'll get the same answer. So here we're going to do 24 divided by 6, which is 4, and then that answer times by your numerator of 1. So 4 times 1 equals to 4. Question 2. Slightly different worded question, but using the same technique. So again, for this question, I'd recommend drawing out a diagram. I've drawn 1 bar and I've split it into 3 pieces because we are looking at what 1/3 is. And it tells us that 1/3 is equal to 12. And we want to work out what the whole number is. If 1 box is equal to 12, that means all the boxes, because they are equal in size, must also equal 12. 3 lots of 12, or 12 plus 12 plus 12, is 36, which is our original number. Then it asks for 1/2 of this number. 1/2 of 36 is equal to 18. Question 3 is very similar. This time it tells you that 3/4 of a number is 15. So that tells me that 3 of these 4 boxes, this number which we don't know, must equal to 15. So if I share that 15 between these 3 boxes, that tells me that each box must be worth 5 each. So therefore, my number is 20. It then asks me to work out what 4/5 of 20 is. So again, if we do it that quicker way, we do 20 divided by 5, which is 4, and then 4 times 4 gives us our final answer of 16. There are 96 coins in a bottle. 1/2 of these coins are £1 coins. So straight away, let's work out how many £1 coins we've got by doing 1/2 of 96. So again, our method for this, we're going to do 96 divided by 2, which is 48. Then times that answer by our numerator, which just tells us 48 £1 coins. So in total, that is £48. The rest are 50p coins. So now we know that 48 are 50p coins. There's a couple of ways of going about this. You could do 48 times by 50 to work out the total amount, or recognise that 2 50p coins is the same as £1. So for every 2 50p coins we have, that is equal to £1. So there are 24 pairs or lots of 2 in 48. So it must be 24 times by £1, which is £24. The total value then is adding these numbers together, and we'll get our total answer of 72. So 48 plus 24 is 72. Question 5 tells us that 4/5, so 4 of these boxes, is equal to 64, and it wants us to find the whole number, so what that whole bar is worth. So we have shared 64 equally between these 4 boxes. So if we work that out now, we would get the answer of 16. So 64 divided by 4 is 16. So 16 must go in each box. So therefore my number is 5 boxes, each worth 16. So 16 add itself 5 times, or 5 times 16, and you get your answer of 80. Question 6. This is now getting onto the more worded type problem, one which is more typical in your GCSE exam paper. So here we've got 250 people in a museum. It tells you 2/5 of the 250 people are girls. I'm not going to read any further, but because there's some maths I can do, I'm going to do that first. So what that's telling me is to work out 2/5 of 250. So in order to do that, we do 250 divided by our denominator of 5, which is 50. Then we take that 50 and we times it by our numerator of 2. That tells me that there are 100 girls in the museum. That's our first task done. The second line, again I'm not reading the whole question, I'm just going to read the second line. It tells me that 3/10 of the 250 are boys. So again, using a very similar method, we're going to do 250 divided by 10, which is 25, then 25 times our numerator of 3 is 75, and that tells us how many boys there are. The final part tells us that the rest of the 250 people are adults, and it wants us to work out that number. So we know we've got a total of 250. If we add the boys and the girls together, then subtract that from our total, that is going to give us our answer of how many adults there are at the museum. So 250 subtract 175 is equal to 75 adults. So question 7. Again, they've given a lot of information. So we're going to do it step by step. We're going to read the first bit of information. We're going to do the maths. So the first class section has 14 seats. 5/7 are being used. So if we work out what 5/7 of 14 is, we do 14 divided by 7, which is 2. Then we times that 2 by our numerator to get how many are being used. So 10 seats in first class are being used. Business class has 64 seats and 5/16 are being used. So 5/16 of 64. So again we do 64 divided by 16, which is 4. And then 4 times 5 is 20. So again we've got 20 which are being used. Our last part of the question. So in economy we have 108 seats and 5/9 are being used. So this time we need to work out what 5/9 of 108 is. So again we're going to do 108 divided by 9. If this was in a calculator paper, you would use your calculator. If not, you either do it in your head or you do the bus stop method. So 108 divided by 9 is 12, and then 12 times 5 is 60. So again we've got 60 seats being used. Right, so now we can work out how many seats have been used. We've got to be really careful here, as in the top question it tells you there is one first class section, one business class section, and 4 economy class sections. So, we know that in first class we had 10 seats used, in business we had 20 seats used, and then in economy we had 60. And we've got 4 sections of economy, so that's why it's 60 times 4. So 10 plus 20 plus 240, which equals to 270 seats in total. Now we need to work out how many seats there are. So we have 14 seats in first class, 64 seats in business, and then 108 seats in economy, but we again remember there are 4 of these sections. So we've got 14 plus 64 plus 432. That is equal to 510 seats. It wants to know if more than half the seats are being used. Well, if we work out what half of the total amount of seats are, which is 510 divided by 2, we know if we were using 255 or more, then yes, we are using more than half the seats. So in total, we are using 270. Therefore, yes, 270 is bigger than 255. So question 8, it's told you that 4/9 of the 873 students are boys. So we need to work out what 4/9 of 873 is. Again, using the same method as before, we're going to do 873 divided by 9, which is 97. And then we're going to do our 97 times by our numerator, so multiplied by 4, and we get our answer of 388 boys. At Willow School, 2/3 of the students are girls. That means 1/3 of the students must be boys. So just be careful there. We're not using that 2/3 which has been stated, but in fact we're going to use this 1/3. So 1/3 times by 630. Well, again we divide it by our denominator, which is 210, and then times by our numerator. So then we know there are 210 boys. So it wants to know which school has the greatest number. Well, clearly Barlow School has the greatest number, and by how many? So then we need to do 388, subtract 210, and that will give us our answer of 178 boys. So they have 178 more boys than at Willow School.